Folks, you buy the house at a great price, but you have big demands. Let me get into that and then the latest home prices and insights for the Peel and Durham region for week ending May the 7th, 2025. We recently purchased a house for one of our buyer clients. Now, there were several properties for sale in the neighborhood. Several recently have sold, but actually not that many sold. It was over the span of some time. And the price that we purchased at, based on today's standard, was a really good price. I'm not talking about compared to peak or so much lower, but based on that neighborhood right now, my client is buying the house at a great price. My client knows it. They're very happy with the purchase price. The seller knows it. It was a difficult, long negotiation, and the seller, I think, reluctantly eventually agreed on our price. And so we did have a home inspection condition, and some things were uncovered in the home inspection. Nothing serious, a whole bunch of small little things that some of it was just general maintenance stuff, but a bunch of little things that didn't amount to very much financially. Now, my client is looking at this. My client's the buyer and is thinking, Santo, he says to me, we bought it at such a great price that I don't mind dealing with all this home inspection stuff here. There's nothing in here that's really serious. And I said, I get it. And you know what? Let me ask for some of this. Let's be prepared that the seller may say no to all of it. But let's ask on some of these points that the seller deals with. And so that's what we did. And what happened was the seller's attitude was no, 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 no to most of it. But 2 or 3 things they did agree to rectify. And it was all a bonus to my client. And my client was happy. The seller was happy. That situation sorted itself out the way it was supposed to go. And it was a happy negotiation. My client bought a home at a price that was great for my client. The seller sold it lower than what they expected to, but it sold and they agreed at the price and everybody moved on. Closing happened. Everything was good. I'm telling you this scenario because too many times I've seen it the other way, where the buyer buys it at a phenomenal price based on today's standards. The buyer knows they're getting it at a good price. The seller knows they're selling their property at a price even lower than what they ever expected to sell it at. And for whatever reason, the seller agrees. Could be financial, could be any other reason, but the seller agrees. But the buyer, after they've agreed on a price, the buyer's demands on the seller are just too much. They're unreasonable. The seller's already not happy selling it at the price that they're selling it at, but they've agreed. And the buyer just pushes and pushes and pushes and has unreasonable demands. Could be as a result of the home inspection. Look, if there's things that need to be sorted out that are serious because of the home inspection, that's one thing. But if they're, simple little things that the buyer could easily sort out, or, the seller could easily sort out, just the dynamics in there, sometimes I've seen where the buyer just gets way, way too much in demanding the seller to do this and to do that, and is unrealistic in their demands. And then even on buyer's visits and closing, in between now and when closing date comes, the buyer is just more and more and more demanding, to the point where they upset the seller. And I'm always thinking, and it's just not a good closing. It's not a happy situation. I've seen in most of those cases, the buyer ends up getting the short end of the stick. Think about this for a second. You purchased a home. That seller is living in your future home. Is that the person you want to be upsetting? The person that is taking care of your future home in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever the closing date is, that seller's in the home that you've bought. I'm not telling you got to roll out the red carpet for the sellers and don't be afraid to ask stuff. That's not at all what I'm saying. But there's a way of doing things that can still have the seller turn over the home to you the way they're supposed to, versus the seller just being so upset at the buyer, at the way the buyer's behaving, that, hey, maybe when they're moving furniture out, they're not as careful in scratching the floors or putting holes in the wall, or maybe they didn't clean the house, broom swept condition. Well, maybe they leave a bunch of stuff around for the buyer to take care of, or worse. I've seen it worse. And at the end of the day, the buyer's the one who's left now with the property. But what are you going to do? You're going to turn around and sue the seller? Most buyers won't, just because it doesn't make any sense. But that's the situation. If you push too much where you're unreasonable, I've seen the sellers push back. If you think this video can help somebody please pass it along. If you get value from what we're talking about, subscribe. And if you want to speak with me about your real estate situation, selling, buying, it's really simple. Below this video in the description, there's a link to my calendar. Click on that or go to tsre.ca. That'll take you right to my calendar. Pick a date and time that suits you, and we'll talk about whatever's on your mind. Now, let's get into the numbers. Folks, at the end of this video, there'll be a link on the screen to a beautiful modern log cabin across the street from Lake Simcoe. Check it out. The link will be on the screen. Before I get into our regular show, what I want to do is show you a chart here that kind of breaks the numbers down over a span of several years. So this chart is for all of Peel region, detached properties only, and I've got them broken down by month, going way back to 2020, and actually I look at 2019 also. So let's look at this. For April 2025, the whole month of April, there were 426 detached properties sold across Peel region. Compared to last year, April 2024, well, we're down. 556 were sold a year ago. 637 were sold in 2023. 658 were sold in 2022. Compared to April 2021, 1,316. March 2021, 1,522 detached properties were sold. So 1,315, 1,300, 1,500 versus 426 now. Huge difference where sales are going. However, if we focus just on this year, it looks like sales are trending upwards. January, February, March, April. Average sold price for month ending April of detached properties only across Peel region, average sold price is $1,304,000. That average price is down 9% versus the average sold price 2024. Down 7% from 2023, down 18.9, so 19% down from 2022. 2022 April was just the other side of peak pricing, so we're down 19%. Versus 2021 though, the year before peak pricing, pretty similar. We're down 1.6% versus 2021. I don't want to compare to 2020 because that's the first full month after everybody was told to stay home. Remember, middle of March, you get the announcement, stay home, nobody go to work. Well, April was the first full month, so it's not really fair comparing April then to this April. But if we go the previous April, 2019, our current average sold price of $1,304,000 is 37% higher than where the average sold price was in April 2019. I'm saying that because, lots of doom and gloom with where prices are today in Peel region and anywhere in the GTA. But it's all relative, isn't it? It's all relative of when you bought, how much equity you've built up in your home. Compared to 2019, we're 37% higher. Compared to last year, we're 9% lower. It all depends on the situation you're in. Let's get into our regular program. I've got data here for Mississauga, Brampton, Durham region. For Durham, I'm looking at Pickering, Ajax, and Whitby as my Durham sample. I'm only focused on data for detached properties. Here's the breakdown. Mississauga is always way more expensive than buying in Brampton or Durham. We're going to start off with Mississauga detached properties for week ending May the 7th. 37 detached properties were sold. 2 of those sold at $2 million or more. Sales were trending up, but for a couple weeks they've come down. We're going to have to wait and see what happens over the next few weeks, but there's not really a solid direction of which way sales are going right now for Mississauga. Average sold price, even though it's up and down, I would say overall, since February, average sold price has been trending downwards. I would say from this perspective, it's currently for week ending May the 7th, for detached properties, $1,356,000 is the average sold price. 1,356 is 11% lower than what it was this time a year ago. The median price of 1,255 is 9% lower than where it was this time a year ago. The dotted line, that's a 4-week moving average. Kind of looks pretty clear that average price and median price have been trending down. Actually, I said pretty clear. It's more clear with the average sold price. The median price has been flat for a while, then trending down. Again, this is just an observation. It's average prices, median prices, and the individual situation that you're in. Selling or buying, the neighborhood you're interested in is really going to determine what makes sense for that neighborhood. 37 were sold. 8 of those, 22%, sold at list price or more. Listings, now this is a trend we're seeing right across the board, across the GTA. Listings are up, and in some areas way up versus the previous few months. So for week ending May the 7th, 175 new listings of detached properties were in Mississauga. 175, we're going back here to February. There's 3 months, way higher than any other week. Active listings as a result of far more listings and few sales. Active listings is trending upwards. Active listings are properties actually available for sale. So it takes into account all the properties that never sold the previous few weeks that are still on the market for sale. And months of inventory is climbing. We're at 5.1 months of inventory. Here's Brampton. 50 detached properties were sold. 2 of those sold at $2 million or more. Now, I'm showing here, I've put an arrow. I erased it, and I put the arrow back again, thinking, yeah, sales are trending up. And I thought, well, maybe they're not, because it's down and up. You be the judge. I think sales are trending up, but it's really, really difficult to say. What's not difficult to say is which way average prices are trending, and that's clearly trending downwards. For week ending May the 7th, average sold price is $1,101,000. 1,101 is 10% lower than where we were this time a year ago. The median price of $1,059,000 is 11% lower. 50 were sold. 16 of those, 32% sold at list price or more. Listings, I just finished saying for Mississauga, listings are up. We're seeing this quite a bit across the GTA and in some areas way up. Brampton is one of those areas where listings are way up. For the 1 week alone, May the 7th, 250 detached properties were listed. If you just compare to the previous weeks, 250 is a lot in 1 week. Active listings, way up there, climbing. We're now at 1,189 available detached properties for sale in Brampton. Months of inventory holding steady for 2 weeks now at 5.5 months of inventory. Here's Durham. Detached properties only, but not all of Durham. I'm looking at Pickering, Ajax, and Whitby as my Durham sample. For week ending May the 7th, 47 detached properties were sold. One of those sold at $2 million or more. Average sold price has been trending down. For week ending May the 7th, average sold price is $1,011,000. $1,011,000 is 17% lower than where the average sold price was a year ago. The median price of $1,050,000 is 6% lower. The dotted line for average and median, the 4-week moving average, shows both prices trending downward. 17 were sold, 21 of those, 45%, sold at list price or more. So still somewhat competitive for certain prices, certain price points. Listings, not unusual. We're seeing this everywhere in the GTA, just about way up. 180 detached properties were listed. That's just in Pickering, Ajax, and Whitby. Active listings is climbing. Months of inventory up a bit to 3.2 months of inventory. I would say overall, it's very, very gradual and not every single week, but overall, I would say months of inventory is trending upwards, but very, very slightly, still very competitive. 3.2 is just at the bottom end of a balanced market. Here's a quick summary. In most cases, you're going to experience a balanced market. But remember, these are averages, taking a whole area into account. It averages out to be about a balanced market. But that does not mean in some pockets and some price points, it's going to be very competitive. So more of a seller's market. And in others, properties are sitting there unsold. And sellers are basically tripping over themselves to sometimes lower prices to get their home sold, and that's more of a buyer's market. So it averages out to balance, but you're going to experience different markets. Now, check out the modern, awesome log cabin we have for sale. The link is on the screen, and go Leafs go. Thanks for watching.